Before Apple's iPhones dominated the global market back in 2010s, Nokia was the cell phone manufacturing juggernaut. You're definitely too young if you don't remember the reign of the Nokia phones. But as smartphones emerged in the 2010s, they failed to keep up with times and have reached the bottom. What's good, you guys? This is Market Thrive. And today, we're going to talk about the legendary comeback of the phone company that once dominated the global market back in the 90s and 2000s, Nokia. Before we start the video, I would just like you to do me a favor by just hitting that subscribe button and the bell notification down below to keep you updated on this channel. So without further ado, let's hop into it. Nokia's history begins in 1865 when Finnish engineer Fredrik Idestam established a paper pulp business. He opened more paper mills to grow his business over time and eventually gave the enterprise the name Nokia. They began creating paper, but they weren't hesitant to use their engineering know-how in other fields. They diversified into other high-tech businesses throughout the 1900s, including the production of rubber and electricity. When they developed the Sunomilite M19 digital communicator, they first entered the communications industry. The Finnish military utilized it to transmit and receive encrypted signals. CEO Karomo embarked on an acquisition binge to penetrate the television, microcomputer, and even personal computer businesses at the time because he recognized the potential of the emerging telecommunications and technology industries. But the purchase of the Mobira telephone firm was their most important one. They introduced the Mobira Senator card phone in 1982, a mobile radio telephone that could be installed in a car. Being able to make and receive phone calls without a landline made it cutting edge at the time. After that, Jorma Ollila took over as CEO in 1992. Jorma, who is largely regarded as the most significant figure in Nokia's contemporary history, has sold off the company's old industrial divisions and transformed it into a wholly telecommunications-focused organization. They produced the Mobira Cityman, the first contemporary mobile phone in 1987. Large and resembling a brick, it was one of the most cutting-edge consumer products available at the time, and it was an instant commercial success. They introduced dozens of different phones throughout the 1990s, each one getting smarter than one before it. They were already releasing internet-connected smartphones around the time of the tech boom, but you could only really use them to check your email. Fast forward to 2007 when they unveiled the N95, one of the most technologically advanced phones the world had ever seen. It offered a 5-megapixel camera, internet access, and the capacity to play games created by other developers. However, their heyday was brief. The financial crisis of 2008 severely affected them. People reduced their discretionary expenditure as a result of losing their houses and jobs. One of the first things most consumers cut from their shopping lists was expensive smartphones. Apple introduced its groundbreaking iPhone in 2007, which swapped out the standard handset QWERTY keyboards with a sizable multi-touch screen. The iPhone's display and user interface were far better than those of Nokia phones because they supported a wide range of third-party applications and games. After the iPhone was released, Nokia phones were no longer a superior offering at a comparable price. Fewer and fewer independent software developers wanted to invest their time creating apps for Symbian as they lost market share. Instead, they concentrated on the iOS and Android operating systems. As a result, the App Store's market share declined, creating a vicious cycle. In just 4 years, the massive corporation that had dominated the market for the previous 20 years had been reduced to a minor player. Their sales fell from 51 billion euros in 2012 to 30 billion, practically halving. Their earnings from smartphones fell considerably more than this, and their reasonably solid telecommunications equipment sector was the only thing keeping them from going bankrupt. The smartphone industry, however, greatly outperformed the equipment industry in terms of profitability. They went from being profitable to losing billions of euros annually as a result of their huge loss of market share. Their stock prices started to plummet. Furthermore, a lot of analysts were anticipating bankruptcy by 2012. Shortly after giving up on the Symbian operating system in favor of the new Microsoft Windows Mobile OS, Nokia's board of directors ousted the previous CEO and replaced him with former Microsoft executive Stephen Elop due to the company's dismal financial performance. The Windows phones were a failure at this point, and Apple and Android were far ahead. They were growing increasingly frantic for Nokia. At that pace, they were losing billions of euros every quarter and would soon go bankrupt. When Microsoft agreed to purchase their unprofitable mobile phone sector in 2013 for 5.44 billion euros or around $7.5 billion, they were saved. Long-term Nokia stockholders found this transaction to be heartbreaking, even if it was necessary because the company was likely worth more than 100 billion euros 10 years ago. The largest telecommunications operator in the world, China Mobile, agreed to supply them with equipment in 2014 as part of a $970 million agreement. Their net profit began to steadily rise, and it appeared that the business was on the right track. The industry has realized by 2015 that 5G was the wave of the future. Nokia's capacity to build 5G network infrastructure needs to be increased. The Chinese company Huawei and the Swedish company Ericsson were now the two most capable businesses in terms of 5G. Nokia finished in last place. In an all-stock merger, they purchased rival French telecom equipment manufacturer Alcatel-Lucent for 15.6 billion euros to correct the problem. Nokia would become one of the market leaders by integrating the R&D assets and intellectual property of the two businesses. And by 2018, it appeared that their emphasis on 5G was beginning to pay off. They agreed to offer NTT Docomo in Japan with their first 5G infrastructure contract. With a market share of more than 50%, NTT is the biggest mobile phone provider in Japan. Nokia has struggled to compete with Huawei, which probably has the most sophisticated and cost-effective 5G infrastructure, despite winning a few high-profile contracts. The Chinese government also makes use of its negotiation position to get several Belt and Road Initiative members to only use Huawei infrastructure. Trump launched an offensive on Huawei in 2020, alleging that the Chinese government may use the company's infrastructure to spy on military and government workers. In reaction, he forbade Huawei from submitting bids for contracts for 5G networks in the US and persuaded numerous European nations to follow suit. They announced 9 constant currency growth in the second quarter of 2021, one of the biggest growth rates in recent memory. Nokia may gain for many years to come, as it doesn't appear that Huawei will be able to mend its ties with the West very soon. Additionally, the Nokia brand is beginning to make a comeback in the mobile phone market after Microsoft acquired Nokia's mobile phone division in 2013. This is happening as the 5G network industry appears to be taking off. Due to their lack of experience in this field of technology, they handled it poorly. Most people believed that former Microsoft CEO Steve Ballmer was responsible for the purchase. Ballmer's biggest error was selling the company for $350 million to a newly established firm called HMD Global in 2016. This is around 95% cheaper than the original $7 billion purchasing price. It was started by a former executive of Nokia who saw potential in the Nokia brand and wanted to revive it. Despite becoming a separate business, HMD continues to use Nokia's technology and patents, and Nokia receives a royalty for each Nokia-branded phone sold. They have introduced a number of Nokia-branded smartphones since 2016, and they have won praise for their high quality and robustness. The most enduring quality of Nokia phones is their near indestructibility. In keeping with the Nokia brand, they created the XR20, which is waterproof and can withstand drops from great heights without breaking. It also arguably provides a much better value proposition than Apple or Samsung phones at roughly $600. The limited app support provided by Nokia's proprietary Symbian operating system in the early 2010s was one of the main factors in the company's demise. Their smartphones all now run the Android operating system, which supports all of the Google Play Store's apps. One of the fascinating comeback stories in business history is Nokia's. When pundits were writing them off as outmoded, they were able to steal triumph from the jaws of defeat and emerge as one of the world's leaders in 5G infrastructure. They went from being the largest phone manufacturer in the world to the verge of bankruptcy in 2012. So would you guys also consider buying Nokia products? Or you're all good with your iPhones and Samsung? Feel free to jot down your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like. And if you want to stay updated on our posts, hit that subscribe button as well. Once again, this is Market Thrive, signing off.